A single whisper shattered the silence of the forest, and in that fragile moment, I realized some nights divide your life into two parts: the person you were before, and the person you become after. The wind pushed against the walls of our little tent somewhere deep in the Cascade Mountains of Washington State, while rain tapped softly against the fabric above us. My best friend, Hannah, shifted inside the shared sleeping bag and quietly asked if I was awake. If you had been lying there instead of me, hearing those words in the darkness, would you have answered immediately? Or would you have stayed silent, afraid that one honest conversation might change everything forever? I had known Hannah for almost 12 years. We had met in middle school when neither of us seemed to fit anywhere. I was the quiet kid who always carried too many books, while she smiled enough for both of us but secretly carried worries no one ever noticed. Through high school, college, first jobs, and countless disappointments, our friendship survived everything life threw at us. Friends often joked that we looked more like siblings than friends because we understood each other's silence better than most people understood words. Yet life has a strange way of hiding the most important truths behind years of ordinary moments. The camping trip had been Hannah's idea. She said we both needed to escape deadlines, crowded highways, buzzing phones, and the exhausting pressure of pretending that adulthood was going exactly as planned. The previous year had been cruel to both of us. My engagement had quietly fallen apart after I discovered that love without trust eventually becomes loneliness. Hannah had lost her mother after a long battle with illness, and although she rarely cried in front of anyone, I could see grief resting behind every smile she forced into existence. We packed old backpacks, borrowed camping gear from a church friend named Michael, and drove north through endless pine forests until civilization disappeared behind us. The first day felt almost magical. We hiked beside crystal-clear rivers, laughed at our terrible map-reading skills, burned marshmallows instead of roasting them properly, and watched deer wandering through the trees as if we were invisible guests in their world. For a few precious hours, our burden seemed lighter. Nature has a gentle way of reminding broken hearts that healing doesn't always happen inside buildings. Sometimes it begins beneath open skies where nobody expects you to be strong. Everything changed after sunset. The temperature dropped faster than we expected, and despite bringing 2 sleeping bags, one had become soaked when an unexpected rainstorm flooded part of our campsite. Sharing the dry sleeping bag was the only practical choice. We laughed awkwardly about how ridiculous the situation was, zipped ourselves inside, and tried to fall asleep while pretending nothing felt unusual. Outside, the rain continued its quiet rhythm. Inside, neither of us slept. When Hannah whispered into the darkness, asking whether I was awake, I answered with a quiet yes. What followed wasn't a confession of romance or a dramatic secret that belonged in a movie. It was something far more human. She admitted she was terrified of forgetting her mother's voice. The sentence broke something inside me because I had never considered that grief could steal memories before it stole pain. Hannah explained that every passing month made her mother's laughter feel softer, her advice less vivid, her hugs harder to remember. She feared that one day she would close her eyes and only remember photographs instead of the woman who had raised her. Tears she had hidden for nearly a year finally escaped in the darkness where she believed no one could truly see them. I didn't have perfect answers. I simply listened. Sometimes the greatest gift we offer another person isn't wisdom but presence. For hours we talked about fears neither of us had ever admitted aloud. I confessed how ashamed I felt after my broken engagement, believing everyone secretly viewed me as someone who had failed. Hannah confessed she had become afraid of building new relationships because every goodbye reminded her that nothing beautiful lasts forever. We discovered that both of us had spent months pretending to be stronger than we actually were. The forest became our witness while the storm outside slowly faded into silence. Morning arrived wrapped in pale blue light filtering through the trees. Everything looked different, although nothing around us had changed. The mountains remained the same. The river still flowed beside our campsite. Birds greeted the sunrise exactly as they had every morning before. Yet something inside both of us had shifted. Honest conversations have a way of clearing emotional storms more effectively than time alone ever can. The hike back to the parking area was slower than before, not because the trail had become harder but because we finally stopped pretending we carried light backpacks. Emotional burdens are invisible until someone helps you carry them. Along the trail, Hannah paused beside a wooden bridge overlooking rushing water. She smiled, not the practiced smile she had shown everyone since her mother's funeral, but a quiet, genuine one that reached her eyes for the first time in months. She thanked me for staying awake. I almost laughed because I realized the truth was exactly the opposite. She had awakened me. Until that night, I believed friendship was built through shared adventures, birthdays, celebrations, and years spent together. But real friendship reveals itself in uncomfortable silence, exhausted honesty, and conversations that happen when the rest of the world is asleep. It grows strongest when neither person tries to fix the other, only refuses to let them suffer alone. Back home, life returned to its familiar rhythm. Bills still arrived. Work remained stressful. Healing continued slowly rather than magically. But our friendship carried a deeper foundation because we no longer hid behind polite answers whenever someone asked how we were doing. Hannah eventually began volunteering at a local hospice, inspired by the compassion shown to her mother during her final months. Watching families support one another helped preserve the memories she feared losing. I found the courage to believe my broken engagement wasn't proof that I was unworthy of love, only evidence that the wrong chapter had ended so the right one could eventually begin. Years later, whenever someone asked about our favorite camping trip, we never mentioned the waterfalls, wildlife, or beautiful mountain views first. We remembered one rainy night inside a tiny tent where two lifelong friends discovered that the strongest relationships are often strengthened not by perfect moments but by honest ones. Before this story ends, tell me in the comments, has one late night conversation ever changed your life forever? And if this story truly touched your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe so more people can be reminded that sometimes the person who simply stays awake with us during our darkest night becomes the greatest blessing of our entire life.